Yeah, what's happening everybody? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's your boy Ranj. I hope you're all doing well. So as the title suggests, I'm going to be taking you through and showing you step by step how to change the front and rear disc and pads on an Audi S3 8V facelift, and this will be the exact same process for a pre-facelift too. So I'm actually recording this intro a little while after changing the brakes, so I've had some time to drive it around and bed them in properly, and one thing I'd say is there's been a massive improvement. Definitely day and night in my opinion, especially with these stainless steel upgraded lines. You know, the Fredo DS250s at the front, the new discs. I mean, just the whole brake setup now is just absolutely perfect. In the future, there is a possibility that I might change them again to, you know, 4 pots, especially if I'm going to run more power. But for now, I think the current brake setup I've got will definitely take me to like a, you know, around the 400 to 420 brake horsepower mark. Any more than that, I think I would have to get 4 pots just to be safe, to be honest with you. This process is relatively easy, and like I said, it is a step-by-step DIY tutorial. And the one thing I wanted to make you aware of is, and one thing I noticed is, for the first 50 to 60 miles, I kept on noticing this little like squeaky noise, and I felt like it was coming from the rear brakes. I couldn't really figure out what it was, but then I realised that the coating on the front discs was a lot lighter than the coating on the rear discs, and that's why that squeaky noise was occurring, because the coating on the rear disc was so heavy and it was just taking its time to come off. So if you do buy the M-Tech discs and you do get a protective coating, whether it's a silver package, I think they do a bronze package, and obviously they do the black package, just bear in mind that sometimes the coating can be so thick that it takes its time to come off and it can cause a bit of a squeaky noise. There's no issues with your brake, especially if you've done everything right. I do hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you find it informative. Hopefully you can save some money and basically, you know, follow this DIY tutorial yourself. I definitely saved a lot of money. Please do follow me on my social media platforms. So on TikTok it's S3Ranj, and on Instagram it's S3Ranj. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that bell icon for future notification. A lot more mods on the way. Hopefully the next video should be the coilovers DIY tutorial process. I can't wait to get the coilovers on. My new wheels are actually on the car right now, but I'll be releasing those and kind of I'm doing a bit of a showcase probably after the coilovers video. But yeah, please do carry on supporting me. I appreciate it massively. Till next time, take it easy and hope you enjoy this video. So let me walk you through what we've got here. So we've got a new set of front and rear discs. So the front discs are 340mm. I got them coated in black. Don't know if you can see there. They've got like the J-hook kind of pattern on there, just because I think it looks really cool, and apparently they're supposed to be a lot better than the drilled pattern. To go with the front, I've got the Fredo Racing DS250 pads. Again, really good reviews about them. My brother actually runs them on his Audi RS3 8P, and he's the one who actually kind of introduced me to them and said they're really good. For the rear, pads wise, I've just went for OEM, I suppose, Brembo style pads, just because, again, good reviews about them. And the majority of the braking that occurs in my car, you know, does come from the front pads really. So yeah, I just went for you know, overall Brembo pads. Okay, so there you go. These are much lighter. So again, similar, same pattern, the J-hook or C-hooks kind of groove pattern, coated in black. So apparently these shouldn't rust or anything like that, but obviously they are a lot smaller and a lot less heavier than the 340 front discs. Okay, so the first thing that I'm doing here is taking all of the little anti-theft bolt caps off. Once I've done that, I'm going to jack the car up, and then I'll take all the wheel bolts off. And now one thing to remember is when you're taking the wheel bolts off, just remember when you're taking the last one off, hold the wheel in place, otherwise the wheel will just potentially fall off. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does, so just for your own safety really, and just to protect your wheel. So hopefully you're still with me. We've got the wheel off, the wheel's on the left side of the jack. Just put the bolts away securely. The next part of this process, so I would start honestly WD-40 in. This is going to be relatively hard to show you, but now that we've got the wheel off, we've put it to the side. We've obviously put some WD-40 on, you know, around here where the hub is. We'll put it on the caliper bolts, and we've also put it on the caliper carrier bolts. But the first step is to actually remove these bolts here. Now, hopefully you can see there's one here, and the other one is here. Now unfortunately I can't get my camera in there just because it's relatively dark, and even with this light it's going to be still relatively dark. Yeah, it's still going to be really dark, but all you need to know is one here and there's one here. But hopefully when I get the caliper off you'll be able to see what those bolts look like. Now to remove those bolts we're going to need a spanner to put here, just otherwise this pin will spin, and we'll need a ratchet to put on this little bolt here and basically undo it. So what you need to do, you need to put your spanner there, yeah,
Hopefully you can see that. And then what you need to do is just make sure this is on the right way. So we need to make sure that we keep all of our bolts together. So I believe this is just like a standard 13mm bolt, but anyway, we need to make sure they're secure. Put them in my toolbox. Now we need to do the other side. So obviously, because I'm working by myself, I'm going to now need to somehow rest this up on there. That should be cool, I think. And if not, I'll do a fucking triple knot. Right, DIY at its finest. Calipers up there. That wire is not too badly bent, so I'm happy about that. Now we need to get these pads out. There we go. Pad 1 out. So that's just obviously it's blue because obviously they got sprayed recently, but that's just the pad that came with from factory. So it's not too bad. It could be a lot worse, but nonetheless, I wanted to change them. So one thing I just quickly thought I'd say is obviously I took the pads off. So on the left hand side, this has already been completed. I've changed the pads and I've changed the discs. But one of the things that my brother said was on the right hand side, you most likely got your pad sensor there. Your pad sensor works like this. So when those wires, so when obviously the pad wears down to an extent, obviously the wires obviously will hit a certain parts of this metal bit here, and it'll tell you that obviously your pads need changing. Now I personally don't think that's going to come out of there. My brother thinks there's a possible way, but I don't think there is. But he said the only other way is, he goes, you can still plug it in, that you're going to have to cut these two wires here, join them together, and it'll basically trick the sensor into thinking that the pads are fine at all times. Right, now we're going to remove these caliper carrier bolts. Sorry, that was just dry as hell. As you can see. I don't know if you can see, but that was just dry as hell. To get this one off. Woo. And there we go, the caliper carrier is off. So we'll put this to a side for a sec. We're going to have to clean this up anyway. But now is the big task of actually taking the disc off, which is going to be, like I said, a ball ache. Okay, so the first step to take this disc off is to remove that torque screw there, and I believe it is a T30. Is it a T30? There we go. So that's come off nicely, but I tell you now, to get this actual disc off is so hard. Just make sure. Get some right. Now, where's that mallet? Ah, there we go. The
emotional damage.
That's not good. Okay, the disc is off, and I've also just managed to hit my car, which is not great. Now it is time to clean this, get all the rust off. You're gonna need some of this brake and clutch cleaner, spray it all around, and then also what you're gonna need is one of these, and basically attach it to a drill and drill round. Okay, so I've just given a caliper carrier a quick clean. It doesn't need to be absolutely spanking clean. The main bits where you want to clean it are where the pads are going to go, really. So like, let me just focus it in. Here, here, and here, and here. My best friend, copper grease. So you just want to quickly copper grease these bolts up. Not loads, not massively. Next step, you quickly grease up this. You don't need to, with this, don't use it sparingly. I'm not saying like go crazy, you don't need to put loads on. Absolutely do not need to put loads on. whoa, whoa. So, copper greased it up. I'm going to put this on. Nice and tight. There we go. Bob's your uncle. Yeah, all they're still showing. Brilliante. Now, it is time to put the caliper carrier back on. Put those bolts. Nice and slick. I do think we need to go in. Bottom one's in. Okay, so there's that one. Now I need to get this side in. So, just a quick tip, I'm not sure if you can see, but basically that needs to basically bend in and that will just slot into place. So again, that will bend down and this bit should just slot into place, as you can see there. Next step is to, before we even can consider putting the caliper back on, we need to rewind the piston, and then before we even do that, I think we need to do something with this pad sensor wire here. Okay, so for this bit, obviously this is the pad wear sensor here. Now, I don't know, I'm pretty sure the DS2 500 pads don't come with pad sensors. I'm pretty sure. On the RS38V and the RS38P they don't. Apparently in the S38V they might, but I don't think they did, unless I've put the pad wear sensors on the wrong side, which doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm just going to kind of delete that pad wear sensor. So I'm going to peel back this black coating, tie the copper wires together, red insulation tape, melt it on, or heat it on, and that's it, and then connect it all back up together. So this should be relatively easy. Okay, so this is kind of complicated. As you can see, this is a piston here. Hopefully you can see that. I don't know if you just saw a second ago, but this little outer ring here, it was out. Now what this tool does, so obviously you need to take this cap off. That tool sits there and you basically, in a way, push the piston back in. And that's what is basically meant by rewinding the piston. So that's all that basically means. So now I've done that, let me zoom back out. There we go. I think I might put this bottom one in first. Okay, so now we are going to cable tie this bad boy together. Just figure out, okay. The only thing that I need to do, and I need to do this on the left side as well, but it's pretty much the same on the right side, is torque everything together. The only thing that needs torquing to my knowledge are these bolts here and the actual caliper carrier bolts, so the slightly larger ones. Whenever I speak, the birds just go crazy, I don't know why. So the next step is to get your torque wrench in and basically torquing those bolts. So these ones for the actual caliper, and the one that actually hold the caliper carrier in place, so those larger bolts. So for the caliper carrier bolts, it's 200 Newton meters, so relatively high. And for these bolts for the actual caliper, it's only 35 Newton meters, so a massive difference. But yeah, they're the torque settings. Okay, so I've set the torque wrench to 200, hopefully you can see that. And now we're going to torque the there we go, that one's fine now. 35 Newton meters. Perfect. So now we're going to be changing the rear discs and pads. Now this is going to be a little bit different and difficult to the front, just because with the rear discs, you've got the electronic parking brakes, and to disable the electronic parking brake you need VCDS or some sort of coding software. My brother uses VCDS, and he's going to be actually you know, I suppose disconnecting the parking brake.
Again, once we've disabled that e-parking brake, just jacking the car up, taking the bolts off, and remember to hold your wheel in place for that last bolt.
Okay, so step one, what you want to do is use these little clamps. Yeah, there's one here, and there is one here. There you go. Two there. Store them safe, and then after that, what you're going to do is get a wrench. I'll tell you the exact bit you'll need, and you're basically going to undo these caliper sliding pins, so they're actually in here. You can see the end of it here. So you're going to undo them too, and after that we're going to undo this little clip, is what I'm going to refer to it as, and that's it. The caliper should come off, then we'll have to get the disc off and so on. So we'll go through it step by step though, so relatively easy so far. To get the top one out, it's quite difficult, to be honest with you, just because it does protrude a little bit, your brake line. Ah! That really hurt. Anyway, it's loose. And there we are. Hopefully that focuses in. There we go. That's one of the sliding pins. We'll have to clean this up in a second, but we'll get the second one out now. Now we're going to have to get this top one out, which is a bit tricky. So I've just tried to increase the brightness so you can see, but you've got the brake line here, this little wire, and then you've got this, so it's really hard to get it in. So unfortunately, what you're going to have to do is just kind of like, you know, kind of jiggle your way around in a weird way. There we go. You can see it's starting to move already. Just focus on this bit here. You can definitely see. You can see it's turning, and that little bit's obviously going in. Pushed it through my hand, and there we go. That is your second caliper pin, sliding pin. Now remember, when you're putting all these bolts and stuff back in place, make sure you try to copper grease them, just because look how rusty that one is there. I don't know if you can see, but that is relatively rusty, that. So now, the next step is getting this pin out. Now, the way to get this pin out, there we go. Come out like that, there we go. And that is the sliding clip that I was referring to. And now, what we need to do is remove the caliper. So to remove the caliper, you don't need to remove the caliper carrier or anything like that. All you need to do is basically, and this is really hard to show you, but what you need to do from the top here and then from the bottom in the same place, you need to just kind of like wiggle it off. Yeah. And then eventually you should be able to do it with your hand anyway, so I'll have to get on the ground for this. There we go. Oh, and the rear pad has just fallen out. There we go, so you can see these are the old pads. All nasty. Or make sure with your new pads that the one with the little fancy clip here, or the pin, or whatever you want to refer to it as, that goes at the back. So this is the rear pad, and this is the one without is the front pad. But you can see that they're unevenly worn, and I had the same thing. Oh, actually, wait. No, these ones are a little bit. Actually, yeah, I'm holding it the wrong way. Yeah, these are a little bit unevenly worn. You can probably see there a lot more pad on that one. I don't know why. Same thing on the other side. Hopefully, with these new discs, I don't have that issue. I don't know where my other WD-40 can is, but it had like a long straw on it. So, anyway. Go. Like I said, should just slide off like that. This hub is disgustingly dirty. The aim is to clean all these bits here, so essentially where the pads are going to go and where the new disc is going to go, I need to make sure that all the rust is basically gone. To do that, I'm going to be using this brake and clutch cleaner. Just give that a spray all around, inside. And yeah, really try to be generous with it. Hopefully you can see a difference. If not, all of that hard work was just basically for nothing. But hopefully you can. Basically back and forth with the brake cleaner, back and forth with the drill, with the wire brush at the end. Obviously I use a different attachment, so back and forth with this kind of more narrow one to the flat one. Grease the hub up. grease this little torque screw bit up, and now there we go, and then just rotate it until you can find your little pin. Mine's there, and then there we go. There we go, nice and tight. We're now moving on to the final step. What you're going to do is now wind the piston back to make sure the piston is nice and flush and flat. That's not flat right now, it needs to be pushed all the way back in, it needs to be flush. To do that, you need to get one of these. Hopefully you can see that this part here, so the piston is now flush, it's not sticking out at all. So to put the new pads in, remember this little clippy thing goes at the back. So before you put the sliding pins back, just make sure you give them a clean, make sure there's no black bits on them like that. Alright, so they're in. Now, to tighten it, we're going to be using this. I don't even know what bit this is. So the torque settings on each of these sliding pins is 35 Newton meters. So before we do that, I just want to get this little thingamajig in first. There we go. There we go. So there we have it, the final product. You've got the rear and front M-Tech C-hook discs. Obviously I got the black coating. On the rear I've got the Brembo pads, and on the front I've got the Ferrado DS250s. But all around I've got the stainless steel braided line from Goodrich, and CM Tuning. Chris fitted them for me, but the pads and the disc I fitted. They look good, I'm really happy with them. And we'll see how it drives over the next kind of, I suppose, couple of 100 miles. I mean, that's when I'm going to really see the difference. I've got to bed them in, of course, you know. But that's it. Next I'll get the new wheels on and get the coilovers on. The coilovers I'll just quickly show you. There we are with the uprated camber top mounts. Yeah, can't wait to get these fitted. Excited. Brand spanking new.